Hey, looks like we're live. So, hi guys, welcome to the Traders Journal. I'm Marisa. As usual, I'm here every Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. London time, and we're talking about all things trading, psychology, and mindset. So, today, no different, we're going to talk about more mindset, more psychology, and the goal here is, I want you to become a profitable trader. I want you to become consistent. I want you to become unstuck. And today, the webinar is actually a little bit different, kind of a little bit different, but I'm actually going to do today's webinar over 3 different sessions. So today, next week, and the following week, because we're going to dive really deep into this topic. I need to take you through the journey of this topic, because the topic is how to stop wrecking your trading. And we want to actually get results out of this. So it's not something that's here's a quick tip solved. We need to really kind of work through the different layers, and we're going to do that. So get a pen, get a piece of paper, take some notes. You just check that everything's working before I get started, because once I start talking, I may not stop. Okay, I think everything is working pretty well. And let's get into it today. Okay, so we're going to cover how to stop wrecking your trading. And I think that if you're here, you're probably, like we all have been, we've all been there. If you're a trader, you've been there. But we've all been there where we're asking ourselves, why do I keep messing up my trades? Okay, why do I do the exact opposite of what I know I should do? And why do I keep doing it? It's almost like it's compulsive. You can't stop. You feel like you've got no control of yourself. And the truth is, and I've said this many times, but you're not broken, you're not stupid. It's not that you don't understand trading, you don't understand your strategy. But the issue is, it's not your strategy. It's not the markets. It's not anything that's on the charts. You're actually stuck because of how your mind works. And it's not your mind. It's nothing wrong with you. This is just how a human mind works. And until you understand that, and not just understand that, but accept it, and start actually looking into how can we shift that, you're going to be doing the same mistakes over and over and over again. And one of my favorite, I think, sayings that kind of helped me start to make changes, make the right focus on the right things, is that, the real definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So if you've already jumped from strategy to strategy, if you've already upped your hours on the chart, spent hours and hours and hours studying your strategy, doing back testing, but you always end up at the same place, which is you're breaking your rules. You're taking trades you shouldn't be taking. You're getting too fearful and then missing trades you should be taking. It's not just your strategy, and you need to start doing something else. And that's what I'm offering you today, is to join me, come on this deep dive into this topic and get unstuck. I think you owe it to yourself to get unstuck and to actually start making your trading work. Okay, so today I'm going to show you exactly why you're stuck and how to start breaking free. So before we can really dive into this topic properly, we have to cover something first, okay? And this is to actually understand what's the real problem. Because the answer to all of this is actually quite simple, but it's not easy, okay? And I'm sure you felt like that with trading. I definitely felt like that for a long time before I became successful at it and consistent at it, is that I would ask myself, like, this isn't actually that hard. It seems quite simple. There's candlesticks on a chart, colors, few lines. Like, you can actually make your strategy really, really simple. there's levels. You can, you're just drawing lines actually on a chart. Very much seems like it shouldn't be this hard. It seems quite simple, but why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to do? And that's the truth, is all of this is simple, but it's not easy. Okay, so just stick with it, because once you break through, you break through. You're not going to go back. And let's talk about this problem. Okay, so what I'm saying is that we often are not seeing the real problem. And I often see traders asking, whether it's on comments or in forums, but they're, the question often is there a tip to fix my FOMO? Or can you give me some advice to follow on how to follow my rules? And the truth is, there's no quick tip. There's no little piece of advice. No one's holding information back from you. It's the question you're asking is that you're asking that question because you're hoping that the answer is move your stop loss there, or trade this strategy. You can trade this one without FOMO, or trade at 9 a.m. in the morning. You're hoping the answers are quick, just bits of information, bits of knowledge that somebody's holding back from you, and that will just fix this. And the answer is not on the charts. The answer is, there is no quick magic. If there was a quick magic answer, I would give it to you. But the problem, the truth and the answer is a little more complex, because we've got to actually look at what is the question you're asking. And you're asking a question because you've got a problem. And the way you're seeing the problem is not always the problem. As a coach, my first job is always to question the question. So when someone comes in and says, look, this is my problem, I have to just step back and go, is that really the problem? And here's the thing, is as humans, and I do this as well, okay, so I'm not some magic person that this doesn't affect me. As humans, the way we see the world and the way we especially see our own problems is very much colored by our version of reality. And our version of reality is how you're feeling and how your emotions about things and your beliefs about things. And you can only see the world from your own version of reality. So when you have a problem, you're defining that problem from your own perspective. And the truth is that the problem is not always the problem. Okay, wow, that sounds like crazy talk. Okay, it's kind of like, I'm going to give you an example here that I think we can all relate to, and it's a little bit of an out there example, but it's kind of like if somebody was to come to me and say, I just want to check that everything's still working well. Great. Okay. If someone was to come to me and say, Marisa, I've got a problem. You see, I'm checking the date, and it's the 26th of December, and Santa Claus still hasn't visited my house. So the problem, I think, is that, there's a scheduling issue with his operations. Can you please look into this for me? Okay, so am I going to jump in and go and find out who's scheduling Santa Claus's schedule and how his operations work? Or am I going to step back and say, that's not the actual problem here. The problem here is that you believe in Santa Claus. And this is, I know this sounds absolutely silly, but I can't begin to solve that problem for the person because I first got to reframe the real problem for them. And that's the issue when people are asking for tips and advice on how to solve this, is that the question they're asking first needs to be reframed, because a lot of the beliefs, 95% of traders who are called failures actually have the wrong beliefs, and therefore they see problems in the wrong way. And you actually need to reframe those beliefs. And once you break through these, most of these beliefs, for me, when I'm looking at this, it's the same as someone believing in Santa Claus. it's once you kind of take that red pill, once you move to the other side, you see things completely differently and you won't see them the same. And that's what I'm going to start taking you through today. So stick with this. You might now be really hesitating and going, oh, this, it's a bit like when you first introduce the idea to someone. Okay, now we're talking about adults, but let's pretend you're a 7-year-old kid, because for an adult to still believe in Santa Claus is, something's probably not quite right. But for a child, some kids, maybe some kids never get introduced to Santa. That's great, so they don't have to deal with this. But some kids, a lot of kids, get introduced to Santa Claus. And there's a point in your life when you discover that it's not real. It might seem shocking at first. And, the first time you hear that, I don't know if you can remember, but you don't want to believe it. You're a bit like, because there's good things about Santa Claus. It's exciting. You get presents. It's a fun thing to believe in. And the first time it's introduced to you that that's not real, you are hesitant, okay? But once you kind of, go through, let's say, the looking glass, and even as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, you kind of go, yeah, that was silly that I ever believed that. It's going to be the same with trading. Once you step through the looking glass, you're not going to look back on things the same way. But we do need to really address the real problems. Okay, so why are you really wrecking your trading? Let's understand what the problem really is. Okay, so every trader, we know this pattern. Okay, you spot a setup, your rules say take the trade, and what do? You hesitate. Okay, or worse, you skip the trade, and then you chase it later once it starts running at the worst possible time. And then it turns around, takes you out again, and your stop loss gets hit, you're frustrated, then you take another trade. Next thing you know, you were first hesitant, then you jumped into something you shouldn't have jumped into. Now you're revenge trading. So almost in one trade, you've done everything. You've gone through the whole gamut of those emotions and all the things you shouldn't be doing as a trader. Okay? I'm sure this sounds familiar. It sounds very familiar to me. I've been there. I know exactly what this feels like, because it's just so quick. You can go through everything you shouldn't do in one trade, muck up everything, lose all the profits you made yesterday, and it happens so fast, and you're back to kind of where you started. Now, it's not about your system. It's not about your strategy. It's not about the markets. It's not about someone chasing your stop loss or the market sabotaging you. It feels like that, I know. But what's really the problem here really is what's happening in the 5 seconds between your plan and your action. You plan to take the right trade, but between that plan and taking action, whether that action is delaying your entry, or that action is jumping into an entry you shouldn't do, or the action is revenge trading, there's an action, but there's a gap between your plan, your best intentions, and your action. And in that gap sits emotion. Okay, and the emotion here is self-sabotage, and that's why you're stuck. And I actually believe that 95% of traders don't fail, they're just stuck. And they're stuck in this gap of, it's only 5 seconds, but it might as well be 5 years, because it's so much damage can be done in that gap. Now, there's actually a science to what this gap is. And there's actually a scientific reason that we sabotage ourselves in that gap. And that is the real problem, and that's what we're going to be dealing with. Okay. And what it really is the science of being stuck is that our brains as humans are wired for comfort. We're wired for safety. We are not wired for success, because success requires us to be okay in an uncomfortable space. And trading forces you to step into uncertainty, into risk, and into fear. And your brain absolutely hates that. Your brain will do whatever it can to get you back to safety, to get you back to comfort. Okay? And that is why it throws up hesitation, doubt, urges to break the rules. Your brain jumps into that 5-second gap with everything it's got to get you back to safety, to get you back to your comfort zone. And this is especially true for trading because our everyday actions is in that space of uncertainty, is within a space of risk, is in a space where fear naturally lives. That's just our job, okay? But there's lots of other things that require you to get out of your comfort zone to be successful. And most of us just won't do it because we don't want to be uncomfortable. There's a reason the comfort zone is talked about often when it comes to success, when it comes to mindset, because the comfort zone is where we naturally want to get to. Our everything in our human brains, in our human condition is trying to get us to the comfort zone because that's where we're safe. Okay. And here's the kicker with trading. It's even worse. Is that with trading, because we don't actually understand the problem in the first place, we don't realize that it's the comfort zone that we're out of that's actually causing us all of our problems. And we start learning more and more about the charts. We start taking more courses. We're learning more strategies. We're learning more about, Wyckoff patterns and Elliott waves and Fibonacci and technical things and economics and markets and announcements and interest rates and effects in the markets and all these things that we believe that is telling our bodies that we know more. And the more you know, the worse this reaction to being out of the comfort zone gets, because we're now giving our bodies and our brains an expectation that we know more, so we should be, let's call it right, or we should be safe. Okay, think of being wrong versus being right. Being right is safe. It's in the comfort zone. It matches expectations of when you've studied the markets, you've studied things, you know things, you should be right, therefore you should stay in a comfort zone. But with trading, it doesn't matter how much you learn about the markets. You always have to be in that little space of uncomfort, of out of your comfort zone, that space where uncertainty lives, where fear lives, where doubt lives. That's where traders work, okay? And so the more you study, the more you know about the charts, the worse that being out of that comfort zone is going to be, and the worse your brain reacts. So the heavier the losses feel. Every hesitation feels scarier. And that's why this gets worse. The more you trade, the more you think you should be getting better, you actually get worse, because this being out of your comfort zone is now even worse, because you've told your brain, actually, now I know more things, so I should be safer. But you are in a way, but you're not. Your brain doesn't recognize that. Okay. And it's keeping us stuck. It's really keeping us very much stuck, because we are not used to getting out of our comfort zones and we don't know how to. And that's what we actually have to reprogram. So the kind of like, is there a tip for how to fix FOMO? Well, it's hard to say, here's a tip, get out of your comfort zone. People are going to be like, that's not my problem. I don't have a problem with the comfort zone. I have a problem with FOMO. And that's what I'm saying about the problem. Do you actually understand what the problem is? And asking the right question, stating what the right problem is the start to solving it. But if you don't know what the problem is and you don't accept what the problem is, you can't begin to solve it, and you'll stay in that cycle, and the cycle will just get worse, because you'll jump back to the charts, you'll jump back to trying to learn more, and as we just said, that makes your comfort zone problem even worse. Okay, so big cycle of going round and round in circles. Okay, I'm just checking that all the sound, everything works. Okay. So I'm going to give you a quick practical fix for how to sort this in the fastest possible way and how to sort it in the meantime. The moment you feel that hesitation, which is normal, it's normal to feel that hesitation because now you understand that you've moved into the gap, you've moved into the out of your comfort zone gap. So that's why that you always feel strange, hesitant, doubtful, uncertain about your trades. Okay, and that's okay. You've got to be like, that's okay to feel like that. Okay, so we're going to use a 5-second rule between the planning and acting. You're going to just count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just to process. It's just to give yourself a gap, a 5-second gap, so that your brain doesn't rush in to protect you. A 5-second gap where you kind of just are trying to tell your brain it's okay to be uncomfortable here, and then you take your action. Okay? And it's going to just interrupt your brain long enough that it'll just put you back into control. Okay, so we're going to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You place your trade according to your rules. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You close your laptop instead of revenge trading. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You walk away when your plan says you're done. Just use these 5 seconds to just pause your brain, to just try to give it a moment to tell it it's okay. This is uncomfortable, but it's okay. This is going to be the start to making some changes, because next week we're actually going to dive into far more detail of how to properly and for the long term fix this completely. So there's a challenge for you this week till next week. I want you to, before your next session here, your assignment is to catch yourself in the act. I want you to write down one moment each day where you notice yourself about to break your plan. You notice yourself about to do something you shouldn't do. Don't judge it. I want you just to notice it and write it down. This is what should be going in your journal, right? Just write it down. I noticed that, blah, 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 whatever you notice, because awareness is everything. It's absolutely everything, because if you cannot see a pattern, you cannot change it, okay? So we're going to start just practicing awareness. And when you become aware of it, use the 5-second, action plan to count 5 seconds. Just try to give your brain that gap and see if you can still just take the right action. But the first job here is just to become aware of when these things are happening, okay? So next time, what we're going to do is actually uncover so we've uncovered the real reason you're stuck today. And next week, we're actually going to go deeper and we're going to look at how to start rewiring your brain so you can stop hesitating and start executing properly. Once you can stop hesitating and you can start executing, think about what that means for your trading. Imagine if you could just follow your trading rules without all this, emotional stuff going on, without FOMO, without fear. Imagine what that could give you. But now at least you understand how normal this fear and hesitation is, because we're actually every day as traders putting ourselves into that gap. Okay, so we've uncovered the real reason you're stuck. It's not because you don't know something. It's not because you particularly have an issue with FOMO. It's not your system. It's your brain in the gap between knowing and doing. You know what to do, but before you can do it, your brain fills that gap because you're putting yourself out of your comfort zone. You're putting yourself into a space of fear and uncertainty, which is normal for traders. Okay. And that's why your body is rushing in to try and protect it. Your FOMO, your hesitation, not taking trades, your revenge trading, it's all done because your brain is trying to bring yourself back to a comfort zone. It's trying to protect you. That's the real reason you're doing these actions. It's not, so to say that FOMO or all of these things are something is wrong, it's not. It's actually your body trying to protect you, to keep you safe. We've just got to start rewiring your brain to be more comfortable in that space. I'm going to start doing that next week. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it helpful. Ask me any questions, send me comments. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help you figure out how to sort this out. There is a solution to all of this, and you can stop wrecking your trading. It's going to be pretty fun when you get there. So thanks for joining, and I'll see you next week where we're going to look at the second part and start actually rewiring your brain for this.